Hey listeners, this episode contains some content that could be upsetting or maybe triggering to some of you. Discretion is advised. Hi, I'm Benton Stokes.
And I'm Elane O'Rourke.
And this is Cocktail Theology.
I have concocted a cocktail for us.
I know, I've been looking at it.
Yes.
I'm very excited to try it.
The color is amazing.
It is.
Okay.
It's really beautiful.
So I'm calling this September in Maine, like the state of Maine.
Oh, September in Maine.
I know.
Interesting.
I know. So go ahead and try it, and I'll tell you all what's in it.
Oh, that's surprising. That's really good.
You like it?
Yeah.
Our ingredients were not perfect for this concoction.
Okay.
Okay. If I were to do this again, I would choose different brands of the things we have.
Okay.
But what's in it is cranberry pomegranate juice, grenadine, based on pomegranates, of course.
Right.
Triple sec,
Yes.
boatloads of Tanqueray Rangpur.
Oh, okay.
A little bit of lime juice,
Okay.
like unsweetened lime juice. Rhubarb bitters, which should be cranberry bitters, but we're out of cranberry bitters, and I blame you.
Darn.
Because that's what I do. And that's it.
Well, it's delicious.
It's quite nice.
I wouldn't have guessed cranberry. It tastes more tropical to me. And I know I guess that's the pomegranate, the grenadine, the triple sec, and the lime, all of it.
It's insane. But yes, so I would like to take this and perfect it.
Yeah.
So I think we need to spend a weekend
Perfecting it.
perfecting it. Yes.
I like that.
Okay.
So September in Maine is what we're calling this.
Yes, and I think it's a good name for it. So cranberries are harvested in the fall in Maine, but I didn't want to get all the way into like colored leaves because that's not where we're going with this.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that autumnal flavor.
No,
But
and
it
we're
does-
not in autumn just yet.
At all.
I like it. So today, I thought we might tackle the term, the idea, pro-life. What is pro-life? Yeah, I know, deep sigh. I'm going to lead off here, just kind of talking about what my views are right now on where we are with the idea of pro-life.
Okay.
I grew up in the evangelical church, and pro-life was a banner that one was expected to carry, and pro-life simply meant anti-abortion. As I've grown up and I've grown away from that theology, and I've started to understand a more diverse cross-section of people. And most of my closest friends are women, and they all have stories. And so I've become more acquainted with and more aware of some of the struggles that women face when approaching the idea of having a child. So my views on abortion and women's rights and all kinds of things have drifted and evolved in pretty significant ways since those days. So now looking back on what is pro-life and looking particularly at what has happened in our country since the Dobbs decision last year, it has really cemented for me what people who label themselves pro-life actually stand for. And it troubles me a lot because many or most of these people would also, proclaim to be Jesus followers, just like they use Jesus to sort of mask other things that they believe are right or whatever, or stand behind Jesus as defending their views. They do that with abortion as well.
Yeah.
But really what I see among people who label themselves pro-life is that they're pro-fetus.
Yes.
I wouldn't say they're pro-child.
Nope.
Because they are not in favor of making sure that single mothers have
That's right.
assistance.
That's right. That's right.
And they are not in favor of making sure that organizations that help single mothers and children in those kinds of impoverished situations or situations where, a mother has to work and has to provide for her family. And they're also not willing to really assist there either, whether with, tax breaks or other things. It's
as
just
a political movement.
as a political movement, right?
Yeah, okay.
I also find that these people who label themselves pro-life are hesitant to support things like universal health care,
Right.
or even expanding health care
Right.
within their own individual states.
Right.
They are also very hesitant to support common sense gun laws,
Right.
or to put any sort of restriction on gun usage or gun ownership. In fact, they tend to be in favor of expanding those things. So when I look at the general ideology of most people who also label themselves pro-life, I would say that they are far more pro-death than pro-life, because the things that they support actually do not support sustaining life. They do not support improving quality of life. Many of those people, most maybe, also support capital punishment.
Correct.
So how is supporting state killing of criminals or whatever, how is that pro-life in any way? So what has me really troubled, and this is not a new thing,
Right.
but what has me troubled is that these are people who are calling themselves pro-life when in fact what they are is pro-fetus. And everything else seems like they're actually more like pro-death.
Yes. Okay, let's start with terminology. Pro-life is a political stance, a political phrasing. It has nothing to do with actual attitude or ideology.
It's pretty brilliant marketing, actually.
It is brilliant marketing. And I need to share my admiration and my kowtow to the people who have been creating that end of the political spectrum's marketing language. Because talk about pulse of people who are afraid, they have done it.
Yeah.
So pro-life automatically suggests that everyone else is anti-life.
Yes.
I mean, kudos. And no,
And
obviously
wow.
no.
Right.
And that's not, please hear me when I say that that's not a judgment on any of the ideologies that could sit under that.
Right.
It is simply a brilliant marketing manifesto.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So given that. So I think one of the challenges that we face, all of us, all of our listeners, everybody, no matter what you think about fetuses or children or adults or anything, one of the challenges we always face is taking apart language and saying, what's the purpose of this language? Why is it being presented that way? So I think that when you hear the phrase pro-life, you need to back way off and say, okay, this is exactly the same kind of term as Red Bull.
Okay.
It's a marketing term.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Okay, so backing off from that, then the question is, what does it mean to value life? Okay, and I think our listeners may be more interested in what it means to value life than a particular political stance.
I know that the term is branding, and I know that the term actually doesn't mean anything anymore. That I will say that on the political right, they have done a brilliant job of taking words and making them mean things they don't mean, or using them to label people in ways that the word actually doesn't apply, like patriot, for instance. Words like that,
Right.
where they have just co-opted language, just claimed it, started using it in ways that, it actually isn't defined, shouldn't be used, but whatever, they're using it.
Language matters. Context matters.
It does.
And the language we use reflects how we think. And if we choose to use language without thinking, then we will be taken for people who think a particular thing. So the problem, from my perspective, with the language of pro-life is, as you point out, it has extremely narrow meaning. Pro-life in common parlance simply means anti-abortion and anti-euthanasia. Maybe. If it doesn't affect me. Okay? I think the anti-abortion one actually does have some, if it affects me, so I give credit for that. But that's what it is.
Yeah.
Everything in between, fetuses and old age or sickness, pro-life does not apply to.
No.
So the question then becomes, and I want to give credit to people who feel this way and have not thought about it much, or who have thought about it a lot but think about it differently than I do. Okay? The question for me is always, what constitutes life? For me, life is not merely cells, heartbeat, I don't know, brain, whatever you want to do. Because those things exist across creation. So there's something peculiar in this particular context about humans in those versions.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems as though we care about, I like that you brought up fetuses, because there's something about that is lightening.
Mm-hmm.
Right? As you point out, pro-life movement often, not always, does not care about what happens to the fetus once it is removed from the uterus.
Right.
However it is removed, unless it serves them.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I bring all of that up is, what do we count as life? What does it mean for us?
Yeah.
So let's take as a given that pro-life is a political term.
Okay.
Okay? Not bad. Political term, branding, like Red Bull.
Uh-huh.
So what do we mean when we say we are in favor of life? Do we mean that an acorn cannot be eaten or thrown away because it is potential life?
Ah, yeah.
Do we mean that a woman's menses are somehow anti-life because it is the removal of the ability to give birth? Now, it's natural, don't get me wrong, but are we saying that there's something about the potential for life that counts as life itself? Because if it does, we have a whole different conversation on our hands.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So clearly, it's not about that. If I get my cat spayed so she cannot be accidentally impregnated by the neighbor's male cat, am I anti-life?
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
If we say we are pro-life, we need to understand what we mean. What does
Yes.
it mean?
Yes.
The thing that you're pointing out that is inconsistent is the idea that life, really, life ends at 26 weeks in the uterus and begins again when one is terminally ill. Everything in between, not life.
That's what one would think based on...
That's what one would think.
Right.
Going back to the political piece, there's political use in that construction.
Yes.
All right, let's assume for the moment that our listeners and we are interested in being more thoughtful and more consistent than that. It may be that you think that consistency is the hobgoblin of, small minds, and that's fine. But there's something about that tells us something about the view. Okay? So one of the things I've admired the Roman Catholic Church for over the very bazillion years is that it is almost always consistently pro-life. And what I mean by that is anti-abortion, anti-death penalty, make sure you're taking care of the poor, all of those things.
Right.
Period.
Right. And if you're going to look to somebody as a bellwether for what is pro-life, that's your bellwether.
In the Western part of the world, that consistency of human, and it's always human.
It's human life.
Human life matters. Now, whether they act it out or not, that's not what we're talking about.
Right.
We're talking about what it means to be pro-life. So, for example, if I called myself a pro-life person, I might be concerned that my neighbor needs mental health care because my neighbor is suffering, is likely to lose their life because of their mental health condition. If I'm pro-life, in that big sense, Zoe sense, then I would be concerned about that.
Yes, you would.
Or, even if we're just talking about physical life, which I think is a mistake, and I think we don't actually mean physical life, then I might be thinking, okay, a fetus at 26 weeks could be delivered by cesarean, should then be immediately adopted into a NICU to be taken care of until someone adopts it. Then should be given funds for that person who has adopted that child. Okay, by then a child, so forth, so on and so on. Then we get to, that child now needs food. All right? If that person who is into the sweetness of their hearts taking care of that child, how do we, as a group that have decided that that kind of life matters, How do we support that? How do we
support
help that?
Mm-hmm.
And so on and so forth.
Right.
Clearly, that's not what's going on.
Not even close.
So, to go back to your introductory part, I agree with you. I think if someone's going to say, I am pro-life, then one needs to think about what life, and you can just limit it to human life, what human life means. Are you, pro-life person, willing to sacrifice something that you have in order to maintain the life of another human being?
Right.
If not, you are not pro-life. Period. End of sentence. We're done.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I just want to let that hang there for a minute. Because I think that those of us who have thought of ourselves as pro-life have not actually worked it all the way out. That it doesn't just mean a fetus or an embryo, frankly, an embryo. Mm-hmm. Don't even start me. Nor does it just mean Uncle Tommy, who I'm not willing to pay the hospital bills for or take care of or frankly wash him. Right? It doesn't just mean Uncle Tommy either. It also means the neighbor whose child picks up a loaded gun at your house and then shoots somebody.
Yeah.
So if one is going to call oneself pro-life, for consistency's sake, there needs to be that understanding that life matters.
Yes.
It either matters or it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And both are fine. I mean, they're not fine as Jesus followers, but let's just say they're fine. Mm-hmm. They're fine. But that sense that your life matters and mine doesn't is not okay.
Not okay.
It's not okay in a Christian view or, frankly, a Jewish view, like basically pretty much throughout the Bible. It's not okay. It's not okay under the Constitution. It's not okay philosophically. It's not okay as a practical way of thinking. It just simply doesn't work.
It isn't okay. And that's another thing is that in those pro-life circles, there is a hierarchy of whose life matters. Mm-hmm. Refugees trying to get into this country, their lives don't matter. Gay people, they matter less. Trans people mean even less.
That's right.
Than that.
Yeah, and it's okay to kill a trans person.
Right. So...
Because they deserved it. They're deviant from whatever God intended them to be.
Right. Yeah, pro-life, they are not pro-life.
That's right. And I really want to lift up to our listeners, we are not saying that everyone who has called themselves pro-life, who is listening to this, is not actually pro-life. But it is important to think about. It's kind of like when we talk about, should we call ourselves Christian?
Right.
Because of all of the context around that, it's a very similar thing.
It is a very similar thing.
If you name yourself as pro-life, you might want to think about what you mean by that.
What do you mean? Right.
Right? I will share with my listeners a couple of things I was thinking. I knew you were going to talk about this tonight. I'm thinking about, where my biases are, where I am coming in with some kind of blinders, and I'm sure I am, that I'm not even aware of. And if you hear something, listeners, please point it out to me.
Yeah, let us know.
Part of my history is that I am the product of sexual harassment at work, which means my mother was told, have sex with me or lose your job. Mm-hmm. The biological father was never in the picture at all, because why would he be? Yeah. My mother then, faced whatever choices she had at that time, which were very, very few, and chose to have me, that birth. And I'm saying, because it wasn't me that she was choosing, right? Now, I have very little doubt, although there is some, that she would have been a healthier human being had there been another option for her. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not to say I shouldn't have, it's nothing about me.
Right.
It's about what is her mental health state.
Right.
Okay. So I'm born. That's all good. So then, we get to the late 70s, early 80s, and abortion clinics, and I mean abortion clinics, not Planned Parenthood, abortion clinics are really under siege.
Yeah.
So part of what I feel is important to support other women is to help them get through their decision without being attacked by the white males who want to scream at them.
Right.
So I did abortion clinic support, okay? And it was really, truly, it wasn't about arguing, it wasn't about anything. It was like, these women are being attacked verbally and emotionally by people who have no investment in the outcome.
Yeah, right.
So that was it. So I did a lot of clinic defense. As it happens, I'm just going to be honest with you, listeners, by the grace of God, maybe, but by the reality of excellent birth control and really low fertility, I didn't get pregnant in all of the years that I was having sex with men. I don't know what I would have done. Honestly, I don't know. Because I haven't had to make that decision.
Right.
But I can tell you that as the kind of person who wants to make sure that my choices result in the best possible decision for somebody, I don't know. I suspect that had I discovered I was pregnant after all the precautions, I'm not sure what I would have done.
Yeah.
And I know that in those years, I could not have supported a child. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure I could have mentally gotten to the point of carrying a child long enough to give that child up for adoption.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I would have done. So the question then becomes, and this isn't about me, but it's an example, right? Mm-hmm. The question then becomes, what counts as pro-life?
Right.
Is it counseling me, taking care of me, providing me therapy, providing me food, providing me whatever that thing is, and then saying, yes, I will adopt your child and I will take care of you up until then?
Yeah.
Or is it, frankly, honey, you made a whole lot of bad decisions. You need to carry this child. Mm-hmm. Which unfortunately is most of what pro-life means. I'm going to punish a woman for having sex.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Which I just leave to our listeners.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yep.
Yeah. Listeners, we don't mean to bash anybody. We never want to bash just for the sake of bashing people. That's not what we do. But I think this is a very, very important topic for us to have some soul searching over. And I know that this isn't something that's going away, clearly. And I know that the rhetoric in our country is just at a fever pitch over all kinds of things right now. But I think at the top is, are we honoring life, human life? Are we, as Jesus followers, as just human citizens of this planet, are we honoring human life with the choices that we were making around guns, around healthcare, around all kinds of things?
All of it.
What are we, as Jesus followers, doing to combat that?
Right.
And that's the thing that I'm wrestling with.
Yeah.
And so I felt strongly about bringing this to you guys because I feel like most of you maybe are wrestling with this too. It's very, very difficult to know what we can do against a machine that is so powerful and has been in place for generations now and has so much money and is so loud and has everybody convinced that they're pro-life. Actually, when you look at their actions and what they support, they aren't pro-life. So this is an ongoing conversation, and
yes.
As always, we want to hear from you guys about this.
Please.
If you have comments, if you have experiences that you would like to share on either side, any side of this issue, we invite you to do that. Cocktail Theology is where you find us. But we also just believe strongly that to honor life is to honor every single life.
Yes.
And not just babies that haven't been born yet.
Yes.
So we'll just leave it there.
I think that's fair.
All right. Until next time, friends. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.